All right, so let's jump right in. Today, we're going to tackle a really central puzzle in phenomenology. It's this. How do we experience a whole, stable world when really our senses are only ever giving us these tiny, fleeting fragments of it? We're going to look at the hidden structure of our experience, the parts that are always there just on the horizon of our perception.
So, let's start with a really simple question. Just look at an object near you right now. Your phone, a coffee mug, whatever. Or, hey, even just look at the cube on the screen. Now ask yourself, what do you really see? I know, it seems obvious, but once we start digging into that, it reveals this profound philosophical puzzle that is basically the starting point for all of phenomenology.
I mean, let's get super precise about it. From a purely sensory point of view, you never ever see the whole object at once. You only see one side of it, one profile. With a cube, for example, you might see one side, maybe two. At the absolute most, you're seeing 3 of its 6 sides. The raw data that's actually hitting your retina, it's just a flat, very limited snapshot. And that, right there, creates the core tension we're talking about today. There's this gap, right? A gap between the limited bits of information we actually receive and the whole solid object we experience. Phenomenology gets its start right in that gap by carefully describing this interplay between what is sensorily present and what is mysteriously but definitely absent. Because think about it. When you look at that cube, you don't experience some flimsy, flat cardboard cutout. No way. You experience a solid, 3-dimensional cube. You experience your book as having a back cover, even if you can't see it. You perceive your mug as having an inside. These absent parts aren't just some intellectual guess. They are a core part of the perception itself. So here's the language Husserl gives us to talk about this. On one side, we have what is present, the side you can actually see. He calls this fulfilled, because your senses are directly confirming it, they're filling in the details. But on the other side, we have what is absent, yet somehow co-present, all those hidden sides. He calls these emptily meant. You're meaning them, you're intending them, even though your senses aren't currently filling in that meaning. You need both for the experience to be what it is. And there's a fantastic technical term for this act of grabbing onto the absent along with the present. Apperception. It literally means perceiving in addition to. See, you're not just passively getting data dumped into your brain. Your consciousness is actively reaching out and including all those unseen parts. This is the very act that constitutes the object as a whole thing for you.
Okay, so how do we actually map this weird field of presence and absence? Well, Husserl gives us a really powerful framework for this, using 2 key ideas, the inner horizon and the outer horizon. Think of this as the conceptual toolkit he uses to chart the structure of any perception at all.
So first up, the inner horizon. This is basically everything we've just been talking about. It's all the absent stuff that belongs to the object itself. It's the sides you can't see, the back, the bottom, the texture of the other side. All of these potential perceptions are what he calls emptily meant, and altogether they form the object's inner horizon. But of course, objects don't just appear in a black void, right? They always show up against a background, inside of a context. And that context, that is the outer horizon. It's the desk the cube is sitting on, the room that it's in, the entire world that kind of fades into the background of your awareness. And this outer horizon is incredibly rich. It's not just the room around you. It's the world that you know continues on behind your back. And, crucially, it includes your own body. Your body is what he calls the 0 point. It's the stable center from which your entire spatial world is organized. The outer horizon also includes time, your memories of the past, your expectations for the future, and even the whole social and historical context that tells you a book is for reading, not for hammering a nail. Okay, so we've got this complex structure of inner and outer horizons. But what's the engine driving all of it? How does our consciousness actually manage to grasp all these absent parts? For Husserl, the mechanism is something he calls intentionality, and specifically the idea of empty intentions. This quote really gets right to the heart of it. Consciousness is never just a passive box that sensations get dumped into. It's always active, it's always directed at something, it's always meaning beyond itself. It's constantly reaching past what's immediately given, and that dynamic reaching out, well, that's the very definition of intentionality. So let's walk through this process, kind of like a play-by-play. Step 1, you see a single profile of the cube. Step 2, instantly, your consciousness sends out what he calls empty intentions, which are like little arrows pointing toward all the unseen horizons, the back, the sides, the bottom. Step 3,
These intentions are basically anticipations. They hold the promise that, hey, if you were to walk around the cube, your perception would be fulfilled. And step 4, this constant dynamic dance between what is empty and what is fulfilled is what actually constitutes the object's meaning for you. It's not a static thing, it's an ongoing achievement. Now, this is a really, really crucial point, and it's where a lot of people get phenomenology wrong. These empty intentions are not cognitive guesses. It's not you thinking to yourself, I bet the back of that cube is also blue. He's describing something way more fundamental, more bodily. It's a precognitive intuitive pull. It's the felt sense that you could move, that you could turn the object. It's about possibilities for action, not intellectual hypotheses. Now, I can almost hear what some of you are thinking. Okay, this is interesting as a kind of, descriptive poetry maybe, but can you really call this a science? And look, that is a very common objection, and it's one Husserl himself took extremely seriously. Right? Isn't this just my personal subjective take on how I happen to see a cube? How do you get from a bunch of personal stories to something that has the rigor and the universality of a science? It's a completely fair question. Well, Husserl's answer was bold. It was completely uncompromising. For him, this wasn't just some side project. This was his central ambition. He insisted that phenomenology could be and in fact must be a rigorous science. He even titled one of his most famous essays, Philosophy as Rigorous Science. So yeah, he wasn't exactly hedging his bets. But to get what he's claiming, you have to realize he was proposing a totally different kind of science. Natural science, it typically asks why. It wants causal explanations, it breaks things down into quantifiable data. Phenomenology asks what? What is the essential structure of an experience as it is actually lived? Its goal isn't to explain, but to describe. Its famous motto is to the things themselves. So, and this is the really crucial point, phenomenology isn't meant to compete with physics or neuroscience. Husserl wasn't trying to replace them. What he argued was that phenomenology actually provides the foundation for them. It describes the structure of what he called the life world. That's the world of our immediate pre-scientific experience. It's the world that all the other sciences have to start from, and it's the world that their findings have to ultimately make sense in. And here it is, his own definition from his masterpiece, Ideas. He calls it a descriptive, essential doctrine of pure lived experiences. It's a mouthful, I know, but it's a science whose job is to describe the essential structures, the essences of experience itself. Its laboratory isn't a particle accelerator. Its domain is pure lived experience. And in that domain, it can be just as rigorous as any other science. So let's end by pulling this right back to you. As you're sitting here listening to me, what are the absent horizons that are shaping your present experience at this very moment? It's not just my voice. It's the feeling of the chair you're in. It's your awareness of the room around you. It's the memory of what you had for breakfast and the anticipation of what you're going to do after this. That vast, invisible network of presence and absence, that is the world you truly live in.